Subscribe if you value the wisdom of the elderly and the patience of the young. In the heart of a bustling city where time was traded like gold, there sat a boy named Elias. He didn't run with the other children, and he didn't beg like the desperate. He simply sat on a sun-bleached wooden crate outside the city's most prestigious clockmaker's shop, clutching a small, rusted metal box with a heavy iron padlock. Day after day, through the biting frost of winter and the suffocating humidity of July, Elias waited. The people of the city treated him like a piece of forgotten furniture. To the wealthy merchants, he was an eyesore. To the hurried bankers, he was a ghost. "He's waiting for a miracle that's never coming," they would whisper, stepping over his tattered shoes. The clockmaker, a man named Mr. Sterling whose heart had become as cold and mechanical as the gears he repaired, would shout at him every morning to move along. But Elias would only look up with eyes that seemed far too old for his face and say, "The time isn't right yet, sir." Elias became the city's living statue of failure. Years bled into one another. The boy became a teenager, his clothes becoming a map of patches and frayed threads, but his posture remained upright, his hands never leaving that rusted box. He watched the world chase shadows. He saw men ruin their health for a promotion, only to be replaced in a week. He saw couples argue over trinkets while ignoring the sunset. He saw a society that knew the price of everything but the value of nothing. One afternoon, a massive storm rolled in, turning the sky the color of a bruised plum. The wind howled like a wounded animal, and the rain fell in sheets so thick you couldn't see your own hand. Everyone scrambled for cover, diving into bistros and boutiques. Only Elias stayed. He sat on his crate, soaked to the bone, staring at the door of the clockmaker's shop. Mr. Sterling, moved by a rare flicker of pity, or perhaps just exhaustion from seeing the boy out there for a decade, swung the door open. "Fine. Come in, you stubborn fool. You'll catch your death." Elias stepped inside, his boots leaving muddy prints on the polished mahogany floor. He placed the rusted box on the counter. The regular customers, the elite of the city who had stayed to avoid the rain, gathered around, snickering. They expected to see a collection of pebbles or perhaps nothing at all, the delusions of a boy who had wasted his youth waiting for a moment that never arrived. Mr. Sterling pulled out his jeweler's loupe. "Is this why you've sat outside my door for 12 years? For this piece of junk?" Elias didn't flinch. He looked at the crowd, at their expensive watches and their impatient faces. "You all have clocks that tell you when to eat, when to sleep, and when to work," he said quietly. "But none of you have a clock that tells you when to live." The room went silent. The air grew heavy, the kind of tension that happens right before the lightning strikes. Elias reached into his pocket and pulled out a small, jagged silver key. Like this video if you believe that true worth is hidden where most people refuse to look. Elias turned the key. The lock didn't creak, it snapped open with a sound like a heartbeat. As the lid lifted, a glow didn't emerge, but a sound did. It was a rhythmic, golden ticking, so perfect and so synchronized that every watch in the room suddenly stopped. The grand-grandfather clocks on the walls froze. The digital displays on the walls flickered and died. Inside the box was the Chronos heart, the legendary master gear lost during the Great Fire a century ago. It wasn't just a machine, it was the standard by which all time in the city was once measured. It was made of a metal that didn't age and moved with a precision that defied physics. "My grandfather was the one who saved this," Elias said, his voice echoing in the silent shop. "He told me the city would lose its way. He told me they would start racing against each other instead of moving with the truth. He told me to wait until the day the city's greed reached its peak, and the people forgot how to breathe. He said that only then would someone be desperate enough to listen." Mr. Sterling reached out a trembling hand. This is priceless. You could have sold this years ago." You could have lived in a palace. Why did you sit in the dirt? Why did you let us mock you? Elias picked up the heart and held it to his chest. Because if I had sold it to a man who didn't understand its value, it would have just become another trophy for a shelf. I waited until I was sure that I was the only one left who still held the standard. I sat in the rain so I would never forget the feeling of being human. You see, the world didn't change me. I changed my world by refusing to lower my expectations of what a life should be. He walked to the door, leaving the box behind but keeping the key. He didn't need the gold, and he didn't need the fame. He had proven that a decade of silence is worth more than a lifetime of empty noise. The people in the shop looked at their frozen watches and then at their own reflections in the glass. For the first time in their lives, they weren't late for anything. They were just present. Your life is a direct reflection of what you are willing to tolerate. If you accept a frantic, shallow existence, that is exactly what you will get. But if you hold your ground, if you keep your standards high even when the world calls you a fool, you eventually become the master of your own time. Comment patience if you are ready to raise your standards, and subscribe if you are a person of high character.